Welcome to Marathon Swim Stories, where we hear the human side of the superhuman feats of endurance swimmers and those who support them. I'm marathon swimmer and coach, Shannon Keegan. Just like you or I, James Pittar realized he was never going to be a sprinter, preferring the distance events. And just like you or I, he overheard someone talking about the English Channel and started to dream of the possibilities. Just like you or I, James builds a team to help him achieve his goals. But James doesn't have the luxury of visual cues. He can feel the heat of the day and hear whistle cues for right and left. But James lost his vision due to a rare retinal disease when he was 13. He tells us all about it in this episode. Enjoy. Welcome,
Sure.
James. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to meet you. Thank you for reaching out. It was just lovely getting an email out of the blue from a marathon swimmer so I can talk to them. It just makes my day. So I really appreciate you reaching out.
No, thank you. And I saw it because I looked at all the different ways towards, and I thought, oh, that's an interesting one. So I thought, well, I'll email this person, and you brilliantly responded promptly. So thank you.
I usually always open it up really broadly, so you get to take this wherever you want. James, what's your story?
Well, my story is that when I was about the age of 13 or 14 years of age, I developed an eye disease known as retinitis pigmentosa, which is a disease that, for some who might know, ends up destroying the retina, the back part of your eye. It's meant to be a hereditary disease, but not in my family. But I suppose a bit ironically, both my father is an ophthalmologist, or was an ophthalmologist surgeon. My mother was an orthoptist, and the two generations before my dad were also eye doctors or ophthalmologists. So it was a really sort of ironic twist that this disease that can lay dormant, and there are different streams of it, such as X-linked, and I'm luckily that where not X-linked. There's either dominant or recessive, and I'm thankfully recessive. Which meant that when I wanted to have a family and I met my wife, that it would be about a 1 in 3 or 4,000 chance that our child could get it. So they were pretty good odds. Whereas the dominant is about 1 in 4. So, so it's an eye disease, and most people who get it lose the side vision and remain central. I did the opposite to that. So I was really a unique situation. So I developed that sort of partway through high school, and got through and finished year 12. I'm not sure what you call that in the States when you get to 18 years of age, whether that's
12th grade.
Sure. Yeah, 12th grade. Okay, so that's yeah. So and I got to that, and I started getting involved. Someone invited me to get involved in blind swimming pool competitions.
Did you have a background in swimming? Were you a swimmer as a kid?
I was a swimmer as a kid because my dad loved swimming in the surf when he was a kid, and he loved competing when he was a child. And he actually, in our backyard, he built a swimming pool when I was about 7 or 8 years of age, and he built it at the start of winter. And we thought, well, what are we going to do for the next 6 months? And he had this brilliant idea of getting 20 trout, and we went and did fishing in the backyard pool. We caught 3 of them. They were quite nice to eat. We didn't get the other 17, but
did you get to swim with them?
They didn't swim with them. We stood there with our fishing lines in our backyard pool, and my dad thought this was a great idea. So he got me and my brother and my sister involved in swimming, and it was sort of from a kid's point of view. I mean, we did it, and we went and did swimming lessons at our local school and things like that, and sort of surf life saving and those things. And we went to the beach every weekend and went swimming. So I think it was ingrained in me that I got involved in swimming as a youngster. But my dad didn't really ever force it to ourselves or to my brother and sister about, do you need to compete and so forth. That really wasn't part of it. And I think that was the enjoyable thing. It was just my dad had this thing that his kids could never beat him in a race in our backyard pool. Right. And of course, that works all right until he gets slower and you get fitter, and then the problems start. And eventually he did get beaten. But so I got in, as I said, so I think as a youngster we did swimming. We went to the beach. My brother very much enjoyed surfboard riding, and I liked body surfing at the beach. So it was sort of ingrained that we really enjoyed it, and so I think that it came from that sort of going every weekend and playing with my brother and sister and my dad and my mum in the backyard pool and having lots of races. I think that was a great thing to do. Whether that was whether I knew where that would take me, I don't know at that point in time, or I didn't know at that point in time. And
Right.
as I said, when I was about 18, 19, and I started getting involved in the blind swimming pool competitions, and that were just and I got involved in them, and it took me to places around the world, like to the Netherlands and to China. But
Oh,
it
wow.
was an interesting thing because I think it took me a long time to probably, because I'd been sighted to the age of 13 and 14 and had gone to schools and played with my mates, and I think played sport with my mates. I think it took me a long time to understand for myself that I was blind, and that might seem a strange thing to say, but I think it took, and it was probably when I got involved in the blind swimming pool competitions I realised that everyone was the same, and that it was in there, go out there and swim, and I think that made a big difference to me, because I thought here's some, this is the being involved, being with blind people, and I think that was great, and I got involved in these swimming pool competitions, and I quickly realised it took me a bit of time to realise that I was never going to be a sprinter.
Yeah.
And never going to be a sprinter. I was a very slow paced. I love the long events, but the 400 meters was the longest in my category, and I knew that was too short. I was too slow. You needed to be a really good sprinter, and I was not that. I enjoyed doing the blind swimming pool competitions, and I mean, to go over to the Netherlands and China and see what that was like was fantastic as a person. And to go around the states of Australia and do national championships, to go to Thailand, and which was another competition we went to, and to England, was a lot of fun. And I think that really did show me that it was a lot of fun. And then I started getting involved. So after a while, I thought, right, I know that I'm not good enough to go any further than what I'd done in the blind swimming pool competitions. And I went in and entered myself in a swim which was from one beach to another. It was about 2.5 Ks. And it went really well. And I swam with my
How old were you
brother.
at this point?
I was, what was I at this time? 1991. So I would have been 22. Yeah, 22 years of age. And I swam with my brother. And it was just and we swam from one beach to around the headland into the next. And it was a lot of fun. I went, yeah, this is what I want to do, because this is going to serve my purpose. I'm not quick, but I'm someone who can just keep on going all day. And I thought, right, that's where I want to go. And someone I then met, and I don't know if many of your listeners would know a person called Des Renford in Australia, who he at the age of 43 swam the English Channel for the first time. And he went on to attempt it 19 times and complete it 19 times.
Wow.
Which is an absolutely unbelievable when you're between 43 and 53 years of age.
Yeah.
But to never fail in a place where the English Channel, when I did it in 1998, only had a 12% success rate of anybody's attempts, and only a 7% of doing it on the first attempt. For him to have completed 100% was just amazing. And I met him one night at a charity swimming event that I'd got involved in. It was just swimming as many laps as you could in an hour. And I was in there, and I went up and I started asking a few questions. Unfortunately, my dad was standing behind me, and I didn't want him to know what the questions I was trying to phrase. And I was trying very hard to make out that, oh yes, no, I was not asking these questions, but in a way I was. And I thought, and as I walked away, I said to myself, yeah, I want to swim the English Channel. But I knew what that meant, and I knew that meant that people would say to me that you're blind, and how is a blind person going to be able to swim the English Channel when you can't touch the boat and you're swimming in the open water? How are you going to do that, and how is this going to work? Am I still going? Yes. Yeah. Yep. You there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
Absolutely.
sorry.
I'm on
Sorry,
bated breath.
my
I was,
computer just made
how?
my computer just made some noise. That's right. I'll keep going. So to me, I knew that was always going to be a really tough thing to convince people that how is a blind person going to swim this English Channel? How are you going to do all these things? And so it was about convincing people that it was possible to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it was about my coach and my group got together and went, right, here are the obstacles, right? That you've got to be able to swim next to the boat successfully. You need to be able to.
I'm still here.
Oh, that's right. I kept going.
Okay.
Sorry about. Yeah, you still there?
Yeah.
So, and that what happened is that so and you can't touch him on aboard the boat. You can't. You've got to swim near the boat. And how are you going to get fed your carbohydrate syrup? And how are you going to be able to swim? Not going all over, swimming in around in circles. How are we going to do this?
Right.
And it was about that. It was trying to convince people that yes, this was possible. And so that night I walked away thinking, yeah, I want to do this, but I knew it was going to take time, and it took me. That was 1990, and took me till the middle of 1998. So it did take some time.
Yeah.
But for those, the way we did it, or the way I did it with my swims, and I've done ever since, is that we have a whistle system or a loud hailer system.
Okay.
So we have one long blast over your left, two short ones over your right, and the one I've never heard, three long blasts as a shark.
Good.
Now, never heard that one, thankfully.
Thankfully.
Thankfully, yes. But it's about, and so it was all about, and then what we would do for being fed in the English Channel was that we would get fed my carbohydrate syrup, and we would have this long swimming pool pole with ropes connected with a water bottle and an open-ended syringe that had my goo in it.
Mm-hmm.
And every hour or every half an hour, they'd blow a whistle into the loud hailer, and I'd stop and I'd breaststroke up and get my feeds and, take what I wanted and chuck it away and keep swimming. And my group would take the pole up and get it ready for the next feed. And people looked at this and went, wow, how's this? And it was funny because when we went to the English Channel, they looked at the feeding pole and went, oh, is this going to work? And I'll never forget the morning after we did the swim. We had three people there measuring it, going, that was magnificent. How can we get this? And I went, well, that shows that it did work, because you've just proven that you've had three people standing here, doing all these things and measuring it. So for me, the English Channel was what I wanted to do, because it was such a big thing. And at that point, I think it was only 20 odd people had done the swim from Australia, the English Channel, up until from 1965 to 1998. And so it was a thing that, I'd heard so much about it from Des Renford and from other people I knew in Sydney. And it was something that I said, yeah, I want to swim the English Channel. And, as I said, I knew it would take me a year to train. And we did some very interesting training methods, such as, you knew it was going to be long and tough and long stretch and boring moments. And my coach said, right, what I want you to do is I want you to go and buy a tethered rope and tie it to the fence posts of your pool at home and swim against that tethered rope for 2 or 3 hours in the cold in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And you said that's what you possibly could be doing in the English Channel. You could be out there at 2 a.m. And you don't know when you're going to start. You hope you start it in the middle of the day, but she said, look, you've got to make sure that, and this is something you can do on your own. You don't need to get us out there to kayak next year. You can just go and do it in the middle of the night. So I'd go and swim in the middle of the night or late in the evening and with a tethered rope and swim in the cold in my parents' backyard pool. And I remember one night my parents were having a dinner party and I walked in and they said, who's that? And they said, oh, James, you just done a 2-hour tethered rope. He'll come and join us for dinner in a moment. And, oh, okay, right. And I just started laughing at my mother going, well, yeah, he's having a shower. He'll join us in a moment. So, we had to do things differently in relation to the way you train, because for me to go out and train in the open water, I always needed someone with me, like someone I was training in Sydney, or it was all right in the pool because I can go and swim on my own in the pool, in either your own pool at home or a lap pool. but in the open water where you wanted to get the distance and you wanted to get the motion of swimming in the ocean, I always had to have someone with me. So it was, again, thinking about the training methods and thinking the way how you had to always think outside the square, because it was, you were dealing with, this was a situation. And I think that's, and as I said, so, and before the English Channel, I did lots of events, like we have a swim from Perth to Rottnest Island in Australia, which is Indian Ocean, which is 22 Ks. And I did that about 6 months before the English Channel swim. And that really did, it was a great test. Even though it was half the distance, roughly, it was still a great test, being in the Indian Ocean and having 7-foot swells against you the whole time. So I think, and the lead up to my English Channel swim is because they wanted to see how I swam next to a boat. They got me out there to do a trial swim for an hour, using the ladder, using the whistle system, using the feeding pole. And the boat captain, he brought me in after 40 minutes because he was going to make a decision whether he would take me, because I wanted to see how this would work. He said, that is the best thing I've ever seen. And he said, and tomorrow morning the tide's good, go home and I'll see you in 6 hours. I went, oh, that's not very good. That's not very good news. The tides did change and we didn't do it the next morning, but we did it 3 days later. Okay. And I think that was the funny thing about it, is that, that there it was, that he'd seen what we'd done in that 40 minutes and went, yeah, let's go. Let's get on with this. And so the English Channel was a day that you luck's the draw, had everything going my way with the wind and the weather and the tides. It was a pretty glassy day, and it took me 13 hours and 50 minutes. I got there in the end, and it's it's funny because I think in open water swimming, in my opinion, you only swim perfectly well to what you want probably 2 or 3 times in your career. And by luck's the draw, that was one of those times. And I just had a day where I swam well to what my group wanted me to do. It's funny, after the first 2 hours, I didn't ever think I was going to fail.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Second hour, I just went, I'm going to do this. I didn't have any troubles. And I think I was really convinced. My coach was magnificent 2 nights before the swim, when she said, when I was very nervous, she said, my team and I would not have brought you here if we don't believe you can do this. I think that was a great thing to say, because it's like, why would we bring you? Why would we do this?
Yeah.
If I didn't believe you could do this, we wouldn't be here. And I thought that was a fantastic thing to say. And as I said, on the day, I started at 8 in the morning. I finished 10 minutes in the dark. So I had the sun with me the whole day.
Wow.
It was 23 degrees air temperature, which is unheard of, 17 degrees water temperature in July, which is unheard of in England.
Wow. Yeah.
And, not much wind, and the wind got up in the last half an hour when I was inside the French coastline. So, I mean, everything went my way. And I've got to say that the probably the funniest thing of the whole day was at the, and I didn't know this, because obviously, and there are advantages of being blind. And that is,
do tell us.
And the advantage of being blind is you can't see where you are.
Right. Yeah.
And therefore your coach and your group can tell you anything they like. Yeah. Because you can't see what you're doing. Right. You can't see that they're making up absolute lies in the background.
Right.
So, at about I think it was about the 9-hour, 10-hour mark, my coach said, I came up and said, so where am I? She said, you're only halfway. I'm thinking 20 hours. And about 20 minutes later, the rest of my group said over the loud huddle, because you could hear what they were saying, he's more than 3/4 of the way to France, you beauty. And I knew, so you can't tell lies, because the rest just paid you out over the loud hail. I can hear what they're saying. So you don't know, and that's an advantage, because therefore you just do what your team tells you to do. And that's good, because you just follow that. And, you're not seeing that White Cliffs of Dover is still there 5 hours after. You're still going, and the most critical part of my swim was at the 12-hour mark. And I didn't know this again when my coach said, right, these next 10 minutes, I want you to sprint. Oh, God, help us. We're in, so I did. And she said, I'll give you a feed in 10 minutes time. Don't worry about the feed, just swim. And I swam my heart out, and I got, and she said, right, good, I'll give you a feed now. What I didn't know was there was this sandbank in front of me before I started sprinting.
Oh.
Told me later, and she said to me, if you hadn't got across that sandbank, the tide was going to change. It would have been another 6 hours of swimming.
Oh my gosh.
And she said, once you got over that sandbank, you were an hour and 3/4 away from the end. But she said you'd got past the tide, and therefore you didn't have to swim for another 6 hours. And I knew that was the difference between succeeding and failing. And it took me 3 hours and 50 minutes. And I think, and I'd completed the English Channel in the first attempt, which I thought for me was like, and in my mind, I hadn't told anyone I wanted to try and break 14 hours. I did it and at the end, when I said to the observer, how long did it take? And he said, it took you 13 hours and 50 minutes. I went, under my breath, I made it with 10 minutes to spare. Yeah. But no one knew that's what I was thinking at the time. And to me, the English Channel was, on that day, was just a magnificent day where everything went really, really well. But I think afterwards, it is what I got out of the English Channel is A, the swim on the day, but B, what's happened afterwards. Because as being one of the first blind people to swim the English Channel, you get asked to get involved in things such as different charity events. And like, the Fred Hollows Foundation, and that's an organisation that I think you have one in the States, United States of America, which tries to, over the last 20, 30 years, has tried to restore eyesight to people with cataract eyesight problems that have gone blind because of cataracts, and also trying to give better health conditions to Indigenous Australians. And to get involved in that, and to be asked to be involved in that, asked to be involved in different, like the Rainbow Club, which I'm the ambassador for the last 20 years, where we provide one-on-one swimming tuition to disabled children here in Australia. And I think that's what the English Channel did afterwards. It got me involved in different organisations, and which I've continued to this day. And I think that was the great thing that came out of it, because people did ask you to do speeches and different things, and to be involved in different, to be involved in a thing called the Royal Far West School here in Manly, where we try and help Indigenous children and give them better health and education. And to do speeches for those kids was a lot of fun.
That's fantastic.
And so it got me involved in these organisations. So I think the English Channel was not only, and as you would have heard, Australia Day is a big thing here on the 26th of January, which was last Tuesday. And we have a thing where we're in Australia Day. What we do is we have a thing called an Australia Day ambassador. And you go around and you speak in towns around New South Wales, here in my state, and about what you've done in your life and to the communities. And I've done that for the last 20 odd years. And again, that came about because of the English Channel. So I think that things came from that, but it was really after the English Channel I just kept on getting involved in doing swims all around the world, and going to places like New Zealand and Anzac Cove, which is very special to Australia, where we fought in World War I, to be allowed to do an open water swim into Anzac Cove, which is a very special place for Australian, New Zealand and Turkish people. And to be able to do, I set myself a goal of trying to do an open water swim in every continent, excluding Antarctica. I made sure I said that before I made the comment. And I did do an open water swim in 6 continents within 3.5 years. And I think that that was a lot of fun doing that, and doing other swims around and raising money for different charities has been a lot of fun. And then in 2004, I met my wife, and I met her online through. So that's always, and that was, and we've had a child 2 years after we got married in 2005. So our daughter Annika is born in 2007. So that was a really interesting thing, to be a blind person and getting married. And that, I think that was also I think that was an interesting thing for me, or being single at that point in time. So, and I think that's taught me, my wife has taught me many, many things in my life, and has been absolutely fantastic in my life.
What was it you say was an interesting thing as a blind person to get married? How was it?
I think I just didn't know, that you and your spouse had to get to know what it meant to be blind. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that, and that's hard. And I think it's
Yeah.
hard, and getting to how do you respond to different things. And like, it's all right when you're here in your home conditions and you do your things every day. But when you go overseas and you go on holiday together and you're together together for 24 hours, days in that holiday, and you're in a different country in a different time zone, how do you get to know, that's about, you've got to come together and be a team. And that's a hard thing, because you're outside your normal controls, you're outside your normal comfort zones. So you have to learn about each other. You have to learn about people's idiosyncrasies, and you have to learn about, yes, this person is blind, and these things. I might just close the door.
Oh.
So yeah, it's getting to know, and so I think, but my wife has given me and taught me many things in my life, and I think that's just been, and she's just been a magnificent support in all my swims. And I think then obviously I was very nervous that obviously we wanted to have a family, and we were lucky enough to have a child, but and how I would go with having a child, and that was going to be a difficult thing, and luckily we met someone before we wanted to have a family who was a blind person who had 3 children, and it was just great. And he was reassuring. He just went, "No, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And don't worry about this. You will be fine. It will work out." And that was a true statement, but you don't know that at the time. But
Right.
it's about. And I remember that what was really good for me was that my wife, when I think my daughter was 2 or 3, she went one day a week. She went away for her work, and I took a day off work for about 5 months, once a week, and looked after my daughter, and that was a great thing. It was a really, really good thing to do. I learned lots of things from that. So I think having a family for me was a totally different thing from doing swims around the world, where you get to the country and you do the swim, which is fantastic. And to me that was, I think it was a totally different scenario, and having a family and all those things was just, I found that, it took me time to get into it, but I think, I got used to, as I said, doing things with my daughter, and I think it's been fine. I think we have a great relationship, the 3 of us. And my daughter and I have a great relationship because, we know that there are limitations at times. And so it's and I mean, for me, so and then I think for me with the swims, that I also wanted to, in about 2008, I sort of finished doing I'd done all the swims I wanted to do. I'd done the Catalina Channel in America. I didn't know at the time that I'd become the first Australian to do the Triple Crown of open water swimming. When I did Catalina, after doing Manhattan Island and the English Channel. And I have to say that with Manhattan swim, that was a lot of fun swimming around. It's now called the 20 Bridges swim in New York, but to swim around that was, and again, that was funny because swimming down the Hudson, you just don't know how quickly you are actually swimming. And I didn't know that. And I thought I was swimming very slowly. And my coach said, "Yeah, but if you could see how quickly you're going against that wall on the Hudson River, you'd know that you're swimming well." So it's just that lovely 8-knot current behind you helps a lot. And I said, "Yeah, thanks, exactly right." And but I think that, and I, as I said, after I'd sort of finished in 2008, all the swims I wanted to do, then they talked about the Ocean 7 swims, and I thought I'd have and I'd already done 4 of the 7, and I had a crack at doing Hawaii, which I failed in because I got a back injury. At the start of the swim, we swam through 9-foot dumpers to get out to where the boat was, and that was just hard work, and I just kept on getting pounded. And at about the 5-hour mark, I gave it away and went, "Nah, this is gonna." I could feel things shitting down my legs, and when I got back to the chiropractor, he said, "Well, you've locked out your pelvis and you've done this. And he said, and you swam for 5 hours with that. And I said, yes. He said, right. Okay, I think you've got a fairly good pain threshold. And I think, but I think I was, again, I think for me, one of the things I've been lucky in my life is I think that whenever someone gives you an opportunity, you need to take the opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been lucky because after Hawaii, I thought, well, that, you know, I didn't do the other two of the Ocean Sevens, which was the North Channel and the Sagari Straits. I didn't want to do, I thought no, and the training was just so immense with the young family. And went, no, I'm not going to do these. And by luck of fortune, I got involved in the first ever stage relay swim across the entire length of the Bering Straits without wetsuits in 2013. And I'd never done relay swims before. I'd always done an individual. And I think this was a totally different thing for me because I'd never done a thing where, you know, you swim for 10 minutes as we were doing and get off and sit there in the boat and have a great chatting with all your mates. And I think that was just a different world because I'd never experienced that as an individual. It's always you and the focus is upon you. Whereas in a relay, it's about, yes, you are out there swimming, but it's about, you know, collaborating with the people, making sure it works. And, you know, to have 65 other people from 15 other countries and from the other 5 continents was fantastic. That's and it's a swim that just how it got done with the just the amount of things that went on in it, like the swells and you know the North Alaskan current, which we didn't know that it was there, and we spent a day and a half getting through that. And I just think that you know, to have people from different countries and different backgrounds was magnificent. And really, it was just to swim from Providencia in Russia to Cape Wales in Alaska was yes, it was cold.
Yeah. just to be clear, yes,
it's cold. It wasn't cold, but yeah, it was cold. And I did all this training in my backyard pool when it was 6 degrees, and it didn't relate anything like that in the Bering Strait. But thankfully, the first 2 rounds of the swim, I wasn't sending because the conditions were too rough. And, you know, to make it sound interesting, or you know, what was interesting for me was that we lived on this 100-meter Russian military ship for 12 days. But to get out to where the swim was and where you did the swim, you had to get in this little inflatable rubber boat. And you had to get off the pontoon and into this little rubber boat. And you know, there were times where you'd be 5-meter swells and you're having to jump off the pontoon, and it was like, holy, this is just, you know, and so they didn't send me out for the first 2 rounds because conditions were too bad. And thankfully, that's when it was 2.3 degrees. And I went, yeah, I'm pleased I didn't go out then. I went out when it was 5, which was a lot better than 2.3. It wasn't great, but it was better than 2.3. And it was something that I really, as I said, then having to, we swam in, what happened was you had 3 people in each boat that went out and swam. You did 10 minutes each and you high-fived the next person.
Okay.
That was always funny because trying to find the next person, I always went third in my group. And trying to find the person who was first in the next boat and trying to high-five them. It's like, yeah, how am I going to do that? You know, and someone would be in the water going, go left, go right, high-five them. Now, you've got to get back on board the boat quickly.
When you're freezing, God. Yeah, oh my goodness.
Because everyone's freezing. We sat here and the other 2 people sat and watched you for the last 10 minutes. Get on with it. And so, you know, you had to climb over past this engine and over a bar and sit down, and you'd be straight back to the main ship, and then you had to be pulled up onto the pontoon of the main boat. And it was just the way that the Russians collaborated this and did it was outstanding. And how no one ended up with doing any injuries is just showed what a great effort they did do. Because you know, to think that there are times where, you know, you almost got impaled against the pontoon of the boat, you were going in and out of an IRB into inflatable rubber boat into a main boat, and having to walk up and down stairs when it was, you know, 5 and 6 meter swells. I'm just surprised that no one did amazing. I mean, we had lots of bruises and scratches and scrapes because you're obviously getting it, you know, being pulled up and on, and that's fine. That you respect that's going to happen. But it just was an amazing thing to be swimming there and swimming, you know, in 5 degrees and swimming across the international date line.
Wow.
That was really cool, actually. I think, in my own opinion.
Absolutely, it's very cool.
I'm in a different. Yeah, I've crossed the international date line, and as I said, we met this North Alaskan current where we went nowhere for a day and a half, and I'll never forget. The 3 South African swimmers went out and did their 30 minutes of swimming, and they came back, and I said to them, "How did you go?" And the 3 of them said, "Well, James, in a half an hour swimming, we made 90 meters." And I said to the first bloke, and I said, so the number one, the first person who swam first in the group, "How far did you get in your 10 minutes?" "I got 130 meters. I turned the other two and I said, "Well, that actually means you guys went backwards." "Yes, we did." So it took us, we eventually did get to Alaska. And I just think, to get this swim done with so many people, different people who all had different swimming abilities, with the conditions and what we had was just amazing. And I think when we finished, it was like, wow. And I'll never forget, I said to my wife when I got home, because there was no communication, you were just out there bobbing in the Bering for 12 days. Wow. And I said to my wife, thankfully I didn't know that the previous 2 years they'd attempted this swim and it hadn't worked. I'm pleased that the year that I got involved, it worked. Isn't that good? So I think opportunity, and out of that swim came, I was able to swim in Robben Island the next year in 2014 in Cape Town, which the South African swimmers I'd met on the Russian swim invited me, and it was a lot of fun. And to be able to swim because Nelson Mandela is one of my heroes in life, to swim from his place where he was incarcerated for a long time, to swim from there to Blauberg, 7.5 Ks, was just, to me it was amazing. And to be embraced at the end by one of Nelson Mandela's people who he'd been incarcerated with was just a thrill. And I think the whole day was a great thrill. And I suppose after that, for me, I also wanted to write my autobiography. And that took me 5 years. And the autobiography is called Blind Vision, and you can purchase it at www.inspiringbookshop.com. You can either get it as a soft copy, as a what do they call it, Kindle, or via Amazon. But it took me 5 years, and it was quite funny because I met someone doing a speech for a charitable organisation. He said, "You should write a book." And I said, "I've tried many times, it hasn't worked." So what he said, "Right, obviously it's going to be hard. So what I want you to do is I want you to get a dictaphone and every night do 25 minutes from your memory. And every night, and then download it into the computer and send it to somewhere and they'll type it for you." I did that for 4 months every night.
Wow.
And it took an enormous amount of time. It took me 5 years to write the book. But I will never forget when it came back and my mate said, "Right, you now need to get someone to edit this book because you've written a lot of words and your English is pretty terrible. And you've done it from you." Well, he said, "Look, you've done it from you speaking. Right. They've typed it from your speaking. And you've done it from your speaking, and you have to, and so I sent it to an editor, and thankfully the editor had never swum in her life before, nor had her partner. It was really good to have someone who had no knowledge of open water swimming, no knowledge of swimming, and she wasn't blind. So, and she'd say to me, "Remember, James, the people you want that you'd like to read your book are not just open water swimmers; they're the public."
Yeah.
And they have no idea when you talk about, a neap tide of between 12 and 25 feet in English, and they have no idea what that means.
Right.
You need to bring that back to a level that is, you got to think about, you're going to relate to someone who's never swum in the open water. And so it was really good to have someone like that who was going, "Right, remember, you just can't put in some nautical term that no one's ever heard of, because it's not going to wash." And I think that was really good. So it took me 5 years. It eventually got published I did it through a self-publisher in December of 2019. And yeah, it's been, it was, I picked probably the wrong year to try and get it out there, being COVID. over
Right.
2020. But that's, it'll keep going for a while. I just enjoyed doing it, and I enjoyed getting it published, and that for me was a thrill. And I think that's, and I've been fortunate enough to get inducted into the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame and the Australian Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame, which was a great thrill. And it's funny because obviously using computer systems, I use JAWS, which is a software for blind people.
Mm-hmm.
Funny because the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame, I saw that one of my other Australian swimmers had been inducted the year I was. And I rang up and I said, "Congratulations, you've been inducted." And she said, "Congratulations, you've been inducted too." And I said, "No, I haven't." She said, "Yes, you have. We're having this discussion on the bus as I was going home from work." And I went home and I said to my wife, "Did I get inducted?" And she looks and said, "Yeah, you did." "Oh, that's great." Yeah. And I said, "So that is true what this lady's been telling me on the bus." And, so 3 of us from Australia got inducted in May of 2010. But it was just I was just thrilled because, there's things that you don't, that when someone nominates you for that award, or it's nice because it means that someone else who's nominated you is great. It's a great thrill, I think. And I didn't get the chance to go over to collect the award, but I had a function with some great mates on the same night here in Sydney, which was a lot of fun. And I think, that those things are nice, but it's nice for me. I just like to be able to put back into the sport at times and do things for charities.
Yeah, that's great.
I think that I believe I've had I've been born in the right era to be blind, where you have so many great communications, like email, you can be able to do emails. I've worked at my job for the last 32 years, and to see the differences in that 32 years for communication.
Yeah.
And to think that when I started in my work, we didn't have Google.
Right.
We didn't have and for the first 2 years, we didn't have computers in the workplace. And I said to one of my work colleagues, who 2 or 3 years ago, he'd been born after I'd started working in my job. And I said to him, "Well, you realise that for the first 2 years, we didn't have computers," and there was this sort of silence. He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "We didn't have computers." And I think that's the difference in this day and age, is that you have Google, you can get a Spotify account and ask for any song in the world.
Exactly, right?
And it plays it to you.
Yeah, it just plays it for you, right?
It plays it for you. You say, "I'd like this song," and plays it to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think or you can do an email, or you can organise a swim from anywhere in the world. Or I can do a Zoom meeting with you when you're 19 hours behind me,
That's
in
right.
time. And the communication, and so for a blind person, you are able to do things like emails and websites, and you are able to work because you've got those communication tools. Yes, there are some drawbacks at times using JAWS and so forth. That's fine, but you're still able to do some work, and you're still able to do things like, for example, me being able to when my editor sent me back the draft copy, I could sit there and listen to it.
Yeah.
I didn't, okay. The difficulty of that is that you're listening to it, you're not seeing how it's written. But
right.
That someone else can do that. But I mean, that's the thing, the communication and the things that you can do in this day and age for people who are blind or have disabilities is sort of amazing, because you can do all these things. You can do all these communications, and you can speak to people all around the world, or you can dial up and listen to any radio station you want in the world.
Right.
Want to do that? So I think for me, what am I now? 52 years later this year, and I think I've just been. I think I've been lucky. Consider myself a very lucky person. I wanted to. I changed the title of my book to Blind Vision from Blind Luck. And my mate said, who'd been kayaking with me for a long time, said, "No, you should never call it that, because your swims aren't luck. I see the work you do and the training you do." So we changed it to Blind Vision. But I think in my life I have been very lucky, and that a lot of the opportunities I've been given, I've been able to take. And that's been a great thing. So I think I suppose that I've maybe rambled on for way too long, I'm sure I have. No, I know I've done that, and I know, but it's. I think to me it is. You've got to take. I think I'd say to people who listen to this, you need to, when someone gives you an opportunity, if you can take it, because it may never come back. Like the Russian swim.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I got involved in that swim 6 weeks before it happened. I did
Wow.
not know a soul when I arrived in
Wow.
Russia. Not a soul. Did not. And the other 65, never met them. Did
Oh
not
my
know
gosh.
them. And I've arrived and traveled around the world on my own and arrived in Russia and did not know a soul. And I think, and that swim, we communicate with each other every day, all through the year. My mates from that swim on Facebook, all those things, because I just, luckily my wife said, yeah, go and do it. It came through a friend of mine in America where she sent me an email saying, we need an Australian to make the 6th continent and the 16th country. And I sat there at my work computer thinking, and who would be stupid enough to do that? And my wife came home and my wife said, you going to do it? I said, I didn't think of me doing it. She said, we'll back you. Off you go if you want to do it. And I went off it, and that was 6 weeks out from the swim.
Wow.
And that was an opportunity. And by luck's of the draw, I was in the right position at the right time. I had a job where I could take 3 weeks off. I was lucky enough that my wife and daughter supported me, and luck's the draw, and it worked on that occasion that I got involved. That's just a bit of luck, but it's a bit of opportunity as well. I took the opportunities.
You took it, yeah.
Took the opportunity, and then another swim came from it, and that's just the way that happened. But I was just in the right time at the right spot, and that worked well. It worked, and as I said, meeting these people, and I was very nervous. I've arrived thinking, and I didn't, as I said, I didn't know that all these people knew each other, because I'd tried this swim the 2 previous years. So they all knew each other, and I knew no one. I'm thinking, what have I done? What am I doing? And so I think that was a really good thing to understand, and to understand that it is about an opportunity. And as I said, if you have the chance and someone gives you an opportunity, you never know what comes from that. And it's about, you never know where things happen and what people will say, oh, I remember that person or whatever. So I think for me, it's about take the opportunities. I think you get very few opportunities in life. If you can take them and do the best you can with them, and things will come, I think, from that. So I've been lucky in that regard, that I've taken a lot of the opportunities that have been given to me, and I think we've all seen in the last year about how good it is, the community spirit that people have, and to be allowed to be able to work from home by my employer has made an enormous difference here in Sydney.
What is the work that you do?
I work in the public service. Okay. I work for the government here in Australia, and to be able to be given the opportunity to be able to work from home since March of last year, till now is and we've all gone through the COVID-19, and it's a difficult thing. It's been hard for everybody around the world, and it's about coming together as communities, coming together as friends. And I think that's been a really, it's been a hard thing, and people having to relate to working from home or kids doing school from home. Really difficult thing, but it's about, let's get it done, and let's know these are limitations. We've got to do these things. So I think that it's going to change, I think, the way we do work here in Australia. I think a lot of people will want to work from home in the future. And we've proven in the last 12 months that we can work from home successfully. And I think that will be, and people will see that, do we need to have massive office towers, with lots of people? Do we? No, if you can work from home.
Exactly.
Why are we getting you to travel into the city?
Exactly.
If you can do it from home. And I think we will learn a lot, as all countries will, and the different countries that good things will come out of it, like working from home or adjusting. And I think, and the way you do things and events, the way you do events, I think that will change, and that will be a good thing. So I think we'll learn a lot from COVID-19.
Yeah, was there any tough parts of the pandemic for you?
I think I suppose, just getting used to working from home, and also when we had the occasional times where we were locked down, which meant we couldn't really leave the house at all. That was hard.
Yeah.
That's always a hard thing. And only being allowed to go out and do things such as essential shopping or medical treatments. That was very hard because, you know, my family and I do lots of things on the weekend. My daughter does lots of school sports. So that was a hard thing. And, you know, you like to go along and watch your kids do sport. And when you can't do that. And so I think that, they're minor things. I think for us in Australia, yes, we've had lots of cases. We've had cases, but I think we've got through it. And I think that but yeah, for me, it was just adjusting, getting the computer systems to work at home, which took a bit of time.
Yeah.
And as I said, when we were locked down, just knowing that that's part of the procedure.
Right.
Getting used to wearing a mask when you're out in public, I found that always very hard. Obviously, I'm someone who has to learn, who has to listen hard to what people are saying. So when they've got a mask, that's even harder. You know, getting used to listening to people and that's a very small thing, but it's something you had to get used to. So I know Australia has come out of the pandemic quite well. And you know, we've done so. I think we've been very lucky in Australia. But
you guys have done well.
We've done well, but it's about how it's a bit easy when you've got 25 million instead of 325 million. That's a totally different. But I'm saying that in a way that, you know, that's a lot harder.
Yeah.
You know, you've got a lot more people in America, and England's got 55, 60, 70 million. That's really hard. Yeah. It's really hard, you know, and people keep, you know, so for Australia, I think, but it's just getting used to the way you do things. And you have to think about, but we don't do that. And how do you do those things? And how, you know, got to get the computer to work. I'm working from home, and you got to phone everyone now instead of just picking up the phone and dialing a few digits. You've got to, you know, and so they're different things. And I think you learn a lot. I learned from that. I learned that it's just about making sure that you do things right, and if you go out in public, and, you know, making sure you wear the masks, and making sure that you do everything right. And I think that's all you can do yourself. And,
it's interesting. You don't actually even have the visual cue. Like if I forget my mask, you know, and I pull up at the store, I can see other people have their masks on, but you don't actually get to be like, oh wait, look, I forgot my mask.
That's exactly right. And so you have to put it like, I would put it in my pocket and go, right, I'm going out today. I've got to put it on, because we the last sort of 6 weeks since mid-December, we've had a situation where we had a bit of a lot of cases in the area where I live. So you were having to wear a mask every single time. And it's just got to be that automatic, I'm going to wear a mask, you know, I have to do it. And I think that was, so you've got to put it in the pocket. Yeah. When I walk out that door, get out of the car or out of the cab, I'm wearing a mask. And that, so as you rightly say, you get the visual acuities of, I've got, someone's wearing, I've got to do that. It's just got to become second nature. And you know, and you go to, when I went to one of the outdoor events we had in Sydney 4 weeks ago, it was like, got to wear a mask, got to do that. So I think we all learned from the pandemic, from the way everyone has to do things, and I think that there'll be good things that will come out of it. I think in the future things will change the way we do things, and we learn a lot in all societies about what you need to do, and how you get along with people and what you do. So that's part of it. Absolutely.
It occurs to me, you were talking about how you decided to first train for the English channel, and how you guys, and I've heard you say it a few times, that you sat down and you write down, you know, like what are the obstacles we need to overcome, and then you decide as a team like how to go about getting over that. Do you feel that, and I've heard you say it with regard to work and, you know, as well as the pandemic, do you feel that like that learning, like from your swimming life carrying over into the other aspects of your life?
Absolutely. I think you learn a lot from, because you're with a team. And I think the most disappointing thing that I found in my swimming career was that, yes, I did the swim, but my team never got the kudos they deserved, because I can't do the swim without them.
Right.
You know, you can't. No swim can be done without a team.
None of us.
That's correct. That is correct. And so it's about, and you learn. What you learn. I learned from doing these swims was that you had to organise your team. And people say to me, James, it looks like you've rocked up, done the swim, and rocked and gone home. Well, If you'd like to see the 1,000 emails I did in the middle of the night, or the phone calls I did in the middle of the night with another country, or I organised my team or got them flights and did this, you don't. I think that's the underlying things, and that you learn a lot about your team. I've been fortunate enough that I've really only changed my team in the 17 years that I was involved about three times. I probably had 8 or 9 people over that 17 years. So therefore you get to know them very well. But you learn a lot about yourself, and you learn about being in a team. You have to be a team. And when I was at primary school, someone gave me what I thought at the time was a very dumb comment, which was strongest chain is only as good as its weakest link. And I thought that was a stupid statement as a child. But in the English Channel, I realised how true that was. Because if I had a weak link in my team, or I was a weak link, it wouldn't work.
Yep.
No, it wouldn't work. So you learn from the swims because it's a team game. Everybody's doing their job, whatever that job happens to be. I think that when I did my swims, I had the easiest job.
Yeah, right.
Because all I had to do was swim.
Right, exactly.
Well,
that's a lot. I've heard lots of swimmers say that. Yeah.
And also try and make sure I listen to the instructions given to me. Whether I did or not is another point of view.
Yeah.
And that is so. Therefore, I had the easy part. I think my team's out there doing stroke calculations, kick calculations. Getting fees ready, encouraging me, looking at tides. That's a very hard job. Yeah. Blowing a loud hailer, difficult job. That's difficult. And making sure that they keep the psychology going as well. So I learned a lot from that as a team. It's a team game. And I think that's the same in anything you do in work. And I suppose the thing I've found the hardest at work when I'm working in with other people is that you can't see people's facial expressions.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing because if someone is having a joke,
right,
you don't know their facial expressions.
Yeah.
And I found that the hardest thing in a workplace. But in a workplace, it's about team. It's got to be team. I think that's what I've learned in all of my life is being a team, whether that's just you and your wife and your daughter, or whether that is being at work and working in an organisation where you're in an open plan office, or doing the swims. It is about team. The team is going to get you there. And sometimes you have to do it on your own, like at work last year when we had a lot of people doing lots of different jobs from what they were normally doing, and you were doing things on your own. That was a hard thing because it was on your own, right. and that's hard. It's all right when you have a team around you, but when the team has to do different jobs because of the circumstances, it was difficult. So I think that's the biggest thing: be a team, and work as a team, and come together as a team. And that's what you need. I mean, open plan officers, I'm someone who speaks a lot, as you realise. And I'm a fairly loud person, so I'm not the most endeared person in open work, in an open planned office. But that's about getting to know everyone's quirks and circumstances.
Getting to know your team members, even the weakest link. It's really important. I worked remotely for about 18 years before the pandemic or anything. And often sometimes I'd be the only remote person on my team. And so what you were saying about the people having a joke in the room, like I was the only one on the phone, I can empathize anyway. But yeah.
And that's exactly
I've worked with some people who were better at it. They would be like, oh, wait, we have to explain what's on the whiteboard for the person we're on the phone because they can't see it, so it's about that team and building that team and finding the right people for that team. So I love that message.
Absolutely. And it's about respect, and it's about understanding who's good at what.
Yeah.
You said with the whiteboard, you've got, and I worked in an area where we're on the phones. And we had a situation where, they said, I know James knows a lot about that particular topic, go and ask him. And they would. And vice versa. I'd go, I have no idea, but I knew the other person did. And and you have the experts who are good at that particular thing, and you go and ask them. And as you're saying that in your job, that it's about, okay, if I'm not the expert, but there's someone is. That's the team. being part of the team. And each person respects each other's knowledge.
Right.
It's not about I'm the best or I'm the worst. It's about
complimenting.
Absolutely.
That's what I like to think of it as.
But that's true. You're complimenting each other.
Yeah.
And each other knows that you work out who's good at what and go, right, what's the answer? Great, thank you. That's all I want to know. And vice versa. And you get to know who's good at what, as you said, with your whiteboard and with the phone. If you're in a different office and you've had in this last year here with my work that you've had to phone other people in other states and know that you've got limitations because everyone's scattered from their normal jobs because of the situation.
Right.
Fine, absolutely.
Yeah. A couple last swimming questions. We're running over time. I hope you didn't have anything scheduled at 9 a.m.
No, that's right.
So you've done some marathon stuff. You've done some cold water stuff. Which do you prefer? What's your favorite?
I like the cold water stuff.
Like cold?
I don't do very well in the heat, but the one swim that really did, which was a great thrill for me, was to do a swim in Thailand.
Oh.
And to swim from Maukar Beach to Pittar Beach, 22 k's.
Oh, fun.
And it was 28 degrees water temperature.
Oh, hot.
And and part of the swim we started as early as we could in the day, but I spent 4 hours in the middle of the sun, middle of the day sun.
Oh,
and and that to me, when I finished, I went, I was so happy because I went, that has just told me that I can do a hot water swim, because everyone said, James, you're really good in the cold water in 15 degrees and 12, 17s and 19s, but you've never done something in 28s. So for me to come out and go, yeah, I did this swim and I completed it. And it was funny because every time we did a drink break, it was throw a bucket of water over your head.
Yeah.
That was what happened every drink break. Take the drink, that's the drink bottle. You've done that, throw the next one over your head. And and you had to do that. And so to me, it was as I said, that was a thrill for me to do something, but I love the cold.
You like the cold at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything upcoming for you? You planning any?
No, well, I suppose the only thing I really would love to do is again back to the Fred Hollows Foundation. I want to try and do, this has taken me 6 and 7 years to get organised, is to try and do a swimming event where kids and people get in the pool and in 1 month of the year and try and raise money. It's only $25 to restore someone's eyesight, or 25 Australian dollars, and try and get a whole community and try and expand it. But that takes a lot of communication effort. It takes a lot of sitting down with people.
You've got to put together the right team, James.
You do indeed, yeah. And the team will involve not only those who can swim, but it'll involve those who are good at technology. And as you can well see from the start of this interview, my technology skills are pretty weak. But it's about the team, and it's getting the right questions and getting the right people and getting the right websites, the right apps, where people can download and raise money. So that's something that I would really like to do. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of effort. It will take a lot of effort. Hopefully we'll get there. Hopefully we'll start small and start it going small in my local community and then try and build it. Fred Hollows is all around the world, and it's mainly we want to try and get rid of everyone who's needlessly blind in the world.
That's a great mission.
It's a great mission. It's a great mission, and I've done a few swims for Fred Hollows, and I always go at the end of it, I've given so many, we raised $20,000. I've given so many thousand people the chance to see, and to me that is a thrill. Obviously, being blind, to think that you can give someone their sight back, and also, Fred Hollows is, I'll never forget, they did a mission, or they went and did a project with the people in Pakistan. And again, from Australia, as I said, in Pakistan, I think what happens is a lot of the young women look after, because in their culture, look after a lot of the people who are disabled. They said by giving these people back their eyesight, it then meant these young girls could go to get an education. So not only did it give people their eyesight back, but it gave, in this community, these young girls an opportunity to get education.
Wow.
And so I think that was really a great thing to understand that from an Australian point of view, because we take that for granted. that we will have education.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
Everyone gets an education. Everyone goes to school.
Right.
Well, in some countries that doesn't happen,
It's not the
and
case. It's true.
And it was like they said that the school rate increased in their education, and that gives them a chance in life. So I just like to get it going. Whether it happens this year, don't know, but we'll see what happens. So
Right.
And being involved in charities like the Rainbow Club and giving disabled children chance to get one-on-one swimming tuition. It's magnificent when they got autism and cerebral palsy. Is really great. And we have there was one kid who had very bad autism, and he spent 9 weeks running around the pool, just trying. The aim was to get him in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
And after a year, he swam 1 lap. And I said, that is a bigger accomplishment, in my opinion, than me swimming English Channel.
Yeah. Yep.
And someone said, that's how can you make that so? I said, because look at that. That is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's taken a year and he swum 1 lap. That is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I said, that's fantastic to be involved in something like that. So yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Okay, last question. Who has inspired you?
People who inspired me, Des Renford's inspired me. My mother, who unfortunately passed away 6 years ago. She's an inspiration, and I think because she she represented her country in squash and played at junior Wimbledon in the 50s and 60s. And I think also my grandmother, my mother's mother, who again got me really into sport. She represented her country as well in hockey and lacrosse.
Oh wow!
And really talked to me, got me involved in sport, I think. And because the other person who's my idol is Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, I love that.
And he's someone that I look upon as someone who to me is to be typical. Nelson Mandela is a person because he, for his beliefs, was jailed for 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
That they were the times. But I think it was more about that and to think that you can be, I've listened to his autobiography, that you can be jailed for that length of time through the authorities, and that was the day. And 4 years after you come out of prison, you're the president of your country.
Yeah.
And that and he said it in his book, he said in his, when he got, I don't know, anointed or got the presidency ship, he said, 30 years ago, the police were coming to get me. And 30 years later, they're saluting me. I thought, wow. Well, I don't know they're the exact words, but there's something like that. And I think he had taken the thing of, he just accepted that. And and I thought, wow, this is a man who shows that you can forgive and forget the past. Right. And he became the president of the country. The other person, probably someone doesn't really know a great deal about, is a bloke called John Stephen Akwadi, a Tanzanian runner who ran in the Mexico City Olympic Games marathon at altitude.
Okay.
And people probably wouldn't know him.
I have to go look it up.
Yep. He's a man who started the marathon with everyone else, and he finished 2 hours behind the winner.
Okay. He
fell over 6 or 7 times, had blood running from ankles and elbows, but he finished. At the end, he was asked a question by an interviewer or a journalist and said, "So why didn't you give it away?" And he said, "My country didn't send me 6,000 miles to start this marathon. They sent me here to finish it."
That's good.
And that's a great thing.
Yeah.
And that to me is what my swimming is about. It's not doing the biggest time, it's getting there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Finishing. And as my dad said to me, it took me 13 hours and 50 minutes to swim the English Channel. And in 2012, an Australian man called Trent Grimsby did it in 6 hours and 55 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And my dad rang me up and he said, he did it in half the time you did it. I said, "Yes, Dad, I know that. I've already worked that one out because someone's already read me the article." But I said to my dad, "You know one thing?" He said, "What's that?" "He's in the book and so am I." It doesn't matter how long it took me. He's in the book.
Yeah.
And so am I in the same book.
Yeah.
It says that we got there. I got to the other side. Two quick things. The other thing was the lady I swam with in Russia, in the Russian swim, Jackie Cabell from England, in the same year in 2012, she took 28 and 3/4 hours.
Wow.
And I said to my dad, that is what the swim is about. It is getting there.
Right.
Not how long it took, but that's something you like to do in your own life, but it's about getting to the finish. And that's what she did. She got there. It took her 28 and 3/4 hours. But it's still going to say in 50 years' time that Trent Ginsby, in the same year, and Jackie Cabell, ran the English Channel.
That's right.
Not going to say anything else. And time won't matter in 50 years' time because it'll still show the two names in the 1 year. And the other thing, when I swam the English Channel, my uncle came to me as sent me a card, a very funny thing. And he said to me, James, you've done something that Napoleon didn't do. You got across the English Channel. I said, yes, but he had a few armies to deal with. Yes, but he said, but it was just a funny thing to say, and the realization that, yes, you had crossed the English Channel. And I think that was the aim of the card, what was written in the card. It was that's what it's about. You got across.
Yeah. Yep. And there's another, I guess the other take on it that I'm advocating is that there's maybe not even success and failure, but there's like not starting. And I think we should all commend ourselves for starting to take on a big task or wanting to try something huge. Even if because there's other, sometimes people don't finish, but they started, like I think that, I don't know. Go ahead.
And that's correct. And it's about, you've started the challenge, you've gone to it, and maybe on the day it didn't work. Like my Hawaii swim. Did all the training, got there, did the best I could. And to me, the thing that was about that swim, I was so disappointed because I thought I'd let down a lot of people. And one of my group came and said, James, the one thing you can take from this swim is that you gave 100% in training and you gave 100% on the day. Yeah. That's all you need to know. You didn't fail. You failed in the thing, you didn't get there. But you didn't fail because you gave 100% training for the last 8 months. And I know you did that because I saw you do it every day. So the point is, and you gave 100% in the swim to your ability, walk away and know you gave 100%, didn't work on the day, off you go. And that was a really comforting, the thing that really comforted me. My wife and daughter were very good. They were very comforting, very supportive, and said, hey, it didn't work, but you know what? You realise that what your body's capabilities were on the day, and you did the right thing. And I knew that was the right thing, and that was a great thing. And I walked away going, yeah, I gave 100%. That's all I have to do. I gave 100%, and that's all I need to know, and that everything else will take its place after that. And said, got back on the plane and went home. And I think that was a good thing. So, yeah, to start an event is great. And you hope on the day you get there.
Right.
Sometimes you don't. And I met someone in England who had attempted the English Channel 3 or 4 times. He eventually got there.
Right.
And his dad said to him, you've had 3 or 4 goes. He was a very thin person from America, and his dad said, you won't break 15 hours. He ran and he said, I broke 15 hours. I did it in 14 hours and 59 minutes. Break 15 hours. Yeah. And that's all you've got to do. And I think that's, and he got there in the end. And you see these people who attempt the English Channel 3 and 4 times and eventually get there. And that's more, I think, a thrill when you do that. Right. Because it's about coming back, training, coming back, having a go, didn't work today, come back next year. When you succeed after 3 or 4 failures, then it means, I think so much more, and means much more to you, because you've been through the trials and tribulations. And I just always think of that poor bloke, I never met him, in the 1890s and 1900s, who attempted the English Channel 22 times and failed 22 times. And I think, wow, 22 times you had to go. And I think, well, that is persistence.
That's
So
persistence for sure.
absolute persistence. And
Yeah.
considering the 1890s and 1900s, he probably didn't have a great deal of, support around. But I mean,
right.
the conditions weren't as, he or she wouldn't have had a massagist and a doctor on board your boat and, all the dietary things.
Right.
No, you didn't have any of that situation. I think some people used to drink whiskey when they said English Channel in the 1870s,
Yeah.
1880s. People used to have, what was it, a kilo of steak the night before, and so those things you just don't come in that regard. It's different times, but unfortunately he failed every time, but he had 22 goes. So persistence, absolutely.
Persistence, yep. Wow. Yeah, it's been wonderful hearing your story today, James. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I hope I haven't rambled on too much, but thank you very much for having me.
It's been wonderful. I'll be sure and include links to your book and your website and everything in the show notes.
Thank you very
so
much. Thanks for your time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's interview. Do you want to take Marathon Swim Stories with you? Subscribe on your favorite podcast provider. Want to connect with like-minded limit pushers? Join us for Marathon Swim Stories live on Tuesdays at 5:30 a.m. Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, 13:30 GMT. Thanks for watching.